What's going on, guys? NealGuides here. Welcome back to another video tutorial. In today's video I want to go over the 4-4-2 second variation, in my opinion the most balanced formation in FIFA 20. The 4-4-2 naturally covers 60% of the pitch, but in this formation I'm going over the 4-4-2 second variation. That's the defensive variation, which in my opinion is more superior than a 4-4-2 flat. It's more attacking than a 4-2-3-1. Unlike the 4-2-3-1 counterpart, you do have two strikers, but obviously that also could be its con, as defensively you're not as stable. But I do like the way this formation attacks. It's a very well requested video, as many people saw me use this on stream for a couple of months. So I thought I'd release my tactics. Just as a reminder, like all my other formations that I release on this channel, all formations are viable formations. They're just different play styles or different combinations for different players. So you, as a user, can try different formations and see what fits your style. At the end of the day, just have fun while you're playing FIFA. Without further ado, let's get straight into tactics and instructions. I'll explain everything and how it all works. Now, going over the tactics and instructions, we're first going to start off with the defensive style. Going with balance. I think balance is the most superior defensive style, especially post-patch. Especially now, drop back is not as effective. Your players aren't pressed anymore. I think the way the 4-4-2 is laid out as well, the balance is probably the best defensive style to go with. Now, with the width, we're going with a wide width of 6. Now, I'll explain to you why we're going with a wide width. The 4-4-2 naturally is quite a wide formation. And especially if you don't have possession of the ball and your opponent has the ball, you want to be able to press. And when players spread out when you're defending, it helps you press, especially your opponent, so they can't waste time or they can't hold the ball. Now, I know what you're going to be thinking is, hang on, what if I'm playing against the 4-1-2-1-2 second variation? Well, this is where D-pad tactics come in. If you're ever playing against the 4-1-2-1-2 second variation, or the 4-2-3-1, or the 4-2-2-2, and you find that your opponent is clogging up the center of your pitch, you can always activate the D-pad tactic, overload the ball side. What happens is, as you can see, your team contracts. It goes towards the middle of the pitch. Of course, you're exposed on the wing side, but if you do find someone using a 4-1-2-1-2 second variation, or you find your opponent is mainly going down the middle, you can always use overload the ball side. Now, the depth, I've gone with a depth of 5. The reasoning is, I want this to be almost like an attacking formation. I'm not going to be using this formation to close the game out. This is a formation I just want to play when I'm drawing or when I need to get a win. So I've gone with a depth of 5. I want to win the ball back high up the pitch, and I also want to press high up the pitch. That's why I've gone with the depth of 5. If this is too high for you, obviously feel free to reduce this to 3. I would say 3 is probably the sweet spot, but I personally use 5. Now, with defensive style, I've gone with balanced. Unlike my other videos, you've probably seen my 3-5-2, my 4-1-2-1-2. I've gone with balanced. I don't really want my players to be running forward or making runs in behind. Especially the fact this turns into a 4-striker formation. I don't want all my players just darting in behind, because then I only have 2 players in midfield. So the idea is basically balance. I want some people to come short. And if I ever want to push someone in behind manually, like my left mid or right mid, I can always do that with the LB or the L1 button to trigger a run manually. Moving over to the width, I've gone with the width of 3. Now, I know what people are going to say is, why don't you just use the 4-2-2? The reason why I like the 4-4-2 though is, even though the width's on 3, just remember, because the 4-4-2 is quite a wide formation naturally, it doesn't mean the team is going to be in the middle of the pitch. They're still going to be very wide. They're still going to be on the wings. These players are not going to change. It just means that when you're, I suppose you can say in the final third, they're just not as wide. I don't want these players to be outside of the game. I just want them to be a bit more centralized. It doesn't really work technically as the width shows in game. It doesn't really centralize your players as much because it's a wide formation, but it does just help centralize the formation and give you the passing options when you're in the final third to pass your wingers so they're not too far away on the wings. Just gives you a bit more attacking ability and short passing options, should I say rather. Now, players in the box, I've gone with 2. I know you're going to be thinking, if I'm attacking, why am I using 2 players in the box? Well, you see, the art of this formation, in my opinion, is the art of pinning. When you're against your opponent, especially with your 2 strikers and your 2 wingers, you want to be pinning your opponent in their box. Now, the logic is, what's the point of having players to get into the box if you can just pass around the box? The idea is you want to seclude your opponent inside the box, let them panic, let them start getting worried, let them start making mistakes, pushing players out of position, and then you can capitalize. So the idea is, you want to pin your opponent outside their penalty box, and you want to basically congest them and force them into making a mistake. That's the whole idea. If you do want to kind of push a player manually to get into the box, you can obviously do that here. So you can, for example, do get into the box. Remember, instructions always override tactics. So if you do feel that you want a specific player like the left mid or right mid to get into a box and across a situation, you can obviously do that. That is no problem whatsoever. Corners and free kicks, as usual, do it to however you deem is appropriate. Obviously, the higher you have it or the lower you have it, it's going to depend on your play style. Obviously, the higher you have it, you may be susceptible to the counter attack. So do bear that in mind. Now going over to the instructions, so one of my strikers on stay forward, stay central and get it behind. The logic is I want one of my strikers to be in the middle at all times and sometimes to be getting in behind my opponent. The other strike I've gone with is come back on offense. Now the reason why is, remember, after the patch, these players don't actually come back on offense. So for those who don't know, before the patch, players used to actually come back and drop into like a cam roll when you're defending. So you kind of defend in a 4-2-3-1 and you build up in a 4-4-1-1. That no longer works anymore. The reason why is I just want, for example, in this case, Nedved to be just behind Neymar. So when I'm attacking, it's basically like a 4-4 kind of short 1-1. The idea is I just want Nedved to be a bit more reserved so he can pick up the ball in midfield so he comes back a little bit. That's the whole reasoning why. Unlike his counterpart, he's not on stay central, he's on balanced. The reason why is if your opponent is parking the bus, if someone is parking the bus and you can't break their wall down, you don't want two players getting behind because you're going to be in trouble, you're going to have no options available. So I have Nedved on balance, he's high median, he's a perfect player. What you can do is you can put this player on false 9. Now what false 9 does is this kind of player drops into the midfield type role. So this is really good if your opponent's parking the bus and you want to kind of attack in a 4-2-3-1, or you kind of want a striker to kind of help in midfield just in the final third, relieve their position in striker and help you build up in, I suppose you can say, the final third around the penalty arc. Someone like Ben Yedder or Garrincha will be very good, or on the cheaper side, someone like Lucas would be very good to use here. Now for the left mid and right mid, we've gone with comeback on defense for both of them. The reason why is I just want them to come back on defense. You know, I don't want to get doubled up. That's one thing I don't want to see, is I don't want to get doubled up against my opponent. So when I have two players back, if I'm going against a 4-4-2 or I'm going up against a 4-2-3-1, I won't get doubled up if my opponent does overlap his fullbacks. That's the whole idea of having them on comeback on offense. So I do want them to help when they're defending, and obviously when they do make a reserve position when they're defending, they can make those darting runs going forward, especially firing the balls down the wing. Now in my opinion, personally, I've gone with chance creation and support runs on balance. As I said, the tactic is on balance, just as a reminder, but you can, if you want, individually put these players to get in behind or stay wide. It depends what you want. I have them on balance. I kind of want AI to decide when to come close or when to come short. I think it works really well in this instance. I think if you do want to push a player forward, try to use the LB or L1 button. But I think this year, I did use stay wide for a bit, but I think balance is probably the best option. Now with the CDMs, now this is why in my opinion the 4-4-2 second variation is more superior than a 4-4-2 flat. Now I know what a lot of you are going to say, doesn't this person use it, the prominent people in the community. I generally think the 4-4-2 second variation is the most superior formation. I'm sure that maybe they play the 4-4-2 flat because maybe it's a bit more attacking, you can argue, but the defensive styles, the defensive behavior is very important in this formation. That's why I like cut passing lanes, something you can't do in a 4-4-2 flat. That's why I think the 4-4-2 second variation, and it basically plays the same way, is more superior. Now I've got one basically drop between defenders. Now the most defensive player I've dropped between defenders. The idea is this player in this instance will drop in between, so you can have a back five. I do have my other on balanced. You can put this person on stay back while attacking if you really want to for more defensive stability, but I would say lead us on get forward or balanced. The whole idea is you want this player to make darting runs from, I suppose you can say, from midfield, a Ramsey-esque player, if that makes sense. And don't forget, you'll convert into a back five when Kante drops in, so that way you won't be in trouble. So if you do lose the ball, you're still going to have a back five in place if you have basically other five players up front. If you're not that good defensively, I'd recommend stay back while attacking on one of them and drop between defenders for the other one. Now the centre backs, they're both on stay back while attacking. I use full backs and centre backs, just personal preference. I'll probably get into that in another video. Goalkeepers on balance as well. The full backs on stay back while attacking. If, however, you do want your full backs to go forward, you can always do so using the D-pad tactics. Full backs join the attack. Don't forget Kante's on drop between, I suppose you can say, defenders, so it will convert into, I suppose you can say, a back three when Kante drops in. So if you want to commit your full backs forward, you can without a worry. One thing I would say, the key thing with this formation is, suppose you can say, is wing play. The wing play, the wing triangle, especially on wide areas, are really good. If you can do a simple 1-2 with either your left mid or your right mid with your fullback, a simple 1-2 can get behind almost any opponent. It's the best way to get past your opponent. All you do is you get the ball on a wing, do a simple 1-2 with your fullback, do a driven through ball in behind, and 9 times out of 10 you're going to beat your opponent, because players do not manually track the winger's runs, and that's why it's really good formation. When you're in a final third, it's a very good formation for attacking, and that's why I really enjoy using it. I would highly recommend, if you are going to get players, if you are going to put these two players on balanced, I would say try to get players with high work rates. Players that are fast are of paramount importance here. That's the most important thing. Try to get players that are fast, players like Neymar, players like Mbappe, Lucas, Green Bernard, Dembele. players like those. For your 2 strikers, I would say you can go with someone like Ronaldo here if you want, but the person who's going to use a false 9 or if this person's unbalanced, I'll say try to get someone that's agile. Someone like Neymar could be good, someone like Mbappe, someone like Ben Yedder. One of those players that are pretty good. You can get away with someone like Nedved also if you would like to. Now for the CDMs, you can go with a defensive CDM, someone like Ndidi on the cheaper side, or Kante like I have. So someone like Allen can also work here as well. Now for the other CDM, I would say try to get a well-balanced centre defensive midfield. You get someone like Goretzka on the cheaper side, or screen for Firmino, or someone like Hullet on the more expensive side. I personally have mine on drop between defenders and my guy on stay forward, because Ale can basically go forward and he can still attack. But anyway, that's the tactics and formations. If you do have any other questions, of course, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. Just as a reminder, because everyone keeps asking me, these formation videos, they all work. They've all been tested vigorously for months. The reason why I make these videos is because some of you guys want to use a different formation and just try out a different playstyle, especially in the state FIFA's in right now. So I'm just giving you different options. I would say if people are going to ask, should I use this over the 3-5-2? Honestly, use whatever just works best for you. That's the key. In comparison to the 4-2-3-1, I do think this is more of a balanced formation, but I do think this is more for the higher skilled end users. Anyway guys, thank you very much for watching. Of course, link to FIFA School, and if you want to watch me stream my games on Twitch using the 4-4-2 second variation, the link is pinned below or links in the description. Thank you very much for watching guys, and I'll catch you next time. Take it easy boys.